and welcome everyone to another episode of Down and Dirty that's brought to you by Poocho, a research productivity tool to collect and analyze consumer conversations at scale. I'm your host, Tapsi, and today I have with me Abhimanyu Shekhawat. He's a seasoned leader in the consumer tech space with over 2 decades of experience across e-commerce, fintech, and AI. He's been instrumental in scaling businesses at industry giants like JP Morgan, Flipkart, and Coinbase. And he's now driving AI-driven innovations at Nurix, which is focused on enterprise solutions. Abhimanyu is passionate about staying ahead of tech trends, content, and media, and he enjoys exploring the latest developments in emerging platforms. Abhimanyu, it's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Tapsi. Great to be here.
So let's start with you telling us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis at Nurix.
Well, Tapsi, it's a startup. I'm going back to 0 to 1 myself. And it's a startup in the generative AI space. And we're trying to reimagine customer experience for enterprises. So we're building customer support and sales solutions, both on voice and text for enterprises from ground up, customizing these solutions for enterprises for their specific requirements so that we can make some real impact and get out of that Gen AI hype ecosystem and deliver something of value to enterprises.
So how did the transition happen, Abhimanyu? You already teased it by saying I'm going back, to 0 to 1. Why going back?
I think it was more about how we were looking at AI that excited me initially, so that this challenge was worth spending, let's say, the next few years in terms of finding this technology's application and the disruption it brings to it. It's from my perspective, Gen AI is going to be truly defining the way we do businesses in the next few years, at least for the next set of ages. And it's going to disrupt industries across the board. That's the exciting portion or what attracted me towards AI and generative AI. I was coming from a technology / new age business background anyways, with my long-term stint with Flipkart and consumer tech, and then my short-term stint with Coinbase, but it introduced to me to a lot of new technology with Web3, blockchain, and then transitioning to the AI ecosystem. And as an individual, I always like that intellectual challenge of exciting myself. I'm an engineer by heart, so I like to actually crack on new problems, new statements, and new industries. So Gen AI it was for me.
Wow. So life must have changed a lot since you aligned with a startup, right? Because it's not like you're clocking in and out in a company that's deeply structured like Flipkart or even Coinbase for that matter. So tell me a little bit about how your life has changed.
It's not the right analogy, but it's very close. When it's almost like your child that you're trying to bring up, and you're invested wholeheartedly in its development in the early stages, right? There is no concept of, while I know there's a lot of viewpoints here, but this is just my personal belief, there is no concept of time then, because you're actually building something with true passion, and there is no weekday in that context. So it's a personal belief. I know that it does not apply to all, but it's a personal belief that when you are invested in a passion project, it really sucks you in. And that's the excitement that I'm loving about the 0 to 1 journey.
Lovely. So if I really had to push you, this is a show that's called Down and Dirty, so I don't want to just stick to the surface.
Absolutely.
So if I really had to push you and ask you, can you give us a sense, everyone who's going to be watching this, how has life changed? Moving from a structured job, a 9 to 5, to a passion project. There are many people who are probably toying with this idea or have similarly just embarked on that journey. It would be lovely to get some insights on actually what has changed.
There is the structured approach, which gives you the comfort of a problem being defined for you, and you're actually iteratively working through the steps and actually improving about it. I call it the 10 to 100 journey, where you actually go step by step and incrementally create impact. The amount of ambiguity that is involved in those structured approaches is far lesser, but the challenge of people management, operation scale up is far more. So there are challenges. Right? So the kind of individual that would fit there is a very different mindset, and I have been in that set of spaces or shoes as well. I've loved that journey as well, but I wanted to push myself in terms of an intellectual excitement that would actually introduce something new to the world and being part of something new into the world. So that kind of excitement which resonates with a new technology or new disruption that is coming up, and b leaving a little bit of legacy of yours, right, at the end of the day, that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
created something of your own. I think that is what is a driving function for me at this stage of life.
Mm.
I've spent a good amount of my career building things for others. I just
Yeah.
felt it was time to build something of my own.
Great. Okay, so I would like it if you could walk me through a day in your life now as someone who is, uh, working at Nurix and working in this new technology, new
Yeah.
business startup, from morning to evening. Take me through what time do you wake up? What time do you clock into work? If there is anything like that. What time do you clock out? What happens in the middle?
Yeah. So I wake up at around 7:30-ish. I'm a late,
Mm-hmm.
but I like my sleep. I like my good
Mm-hmm.
sleep. So I wake up at 7:30-ish. And I have a bad habit that I look at my screen the first moment I wake up. And that's not the most effective utilization of I do that. And then I do my daily chores to set up myself for the
Mm,
office, reach the office, and we have quick huddles in terms of what is up for the next 10 hours, 9, 10 hours
mm,
of the day.
mm,
We do our sales catch ups, we do our normal product catch ups. What are we going to do for the next day, next week,
mm,
and next 2 weeks? That's the maximum that you can actually plan
mm,
for in a startup
mm,
environment because it's so volatile, right? As you do that, you then get into some client calls because there are some pipelines that are waiting for you to address. There's some marketing collateral material that you're actually ideating on, releasing in the ecosystem. There's some case studies, testimonials that you're working across to actually reintroduce again. Working with the product team to actually make changes to the product requests that have come in from the client side,
mm,
customize it for their requirements. A lot of solutioning, and then of course lunch
mm,
comes in, and then you actually sit up. And the best part is that the whole team, which is around 20-25 members right now, we
mm.
more or less try to actually eat lunch together. That only happens when you have a small team size, right? And you lose
Yeah.
that camaraderie when you actually scale up to a corporate structure. So love that portion because even there
Yeah.
we are actually in a very informal way trying to discuss the day that has gone by, like the last
Mm,
4 months, and how what are the set of interesting conversations that we all had, right?
mm,
And then we move into the next phase where we again set of meetings, solutioning, a lot of sales calls,
mm,
and then the day wraps up around 7, 8 for me. I
mm,
head back. I used to actually do workouts between 8 to 8:30 or
mm.
7:30 to 8:30. But at this point in time, I just recently went through some medical procedures. So I'm actually waiting my time out for next 2-3 months before I start that again. I have my dinner by 8:30 max.
Mm.
I avoid having dinner after 9 because just some good habits that I'm trying to pick on. Do my light reading after
Yeah.
9ish. And there is a lot of YouTube after that, which is again not the ideal way to go about it, but I love the content consumption that I do on YouTube. It's almost like a university of sorts for me in that sense.
Mm.
And then I wrap the day around by 12:30.
Okay, okay. So, um, tell me something. In the work that you do, right? I'm going to come back to a day in your life, but tell me the work that you do on a day-to-day basis at Nurix. What are some things that allow you to do that better? So, what are some enablers? Let's say they could be
Sure.
people, something in your environment, or it could be personal, something connected to you and what skills you bring. But you mentioned solutioning as a big part of what you do, and solutioning across departments. I mean, you're doing product solutioning, sales, you're doing marketing. So, true startup leader style, right?
Yep.
So, what allows you to do that better?
I think the first thing that I do is quickly note down my quick tasks, at least on
Mm,
paper. Jot down what I need to actually achieve by the end of the day. These are short notes just to keep me aligned in terms of what I want to actually do.
mm,
Some of them will be achieved, some of them will not be achieved, but just to give me a good direction across the board.
yeah.
In terms of the next set of action, I actually look at my emails, wrap them around so that the history is covered from my perspective. I'm back into the loop of things as to where I dropped things last weekend or just yesterday. So
Mm,
just getting into the process of where things were left. Then having conversations with my immediate team in terms of where they are with their objectives, what is the set of tasks that they have defined for themselves, and just aligning those with my tasks that I have decided, so that we are in sync and the efforts are being pushed in the additive way rather than actually countering each other. On the set of expectations for the rest of the day, I do have to prime, let's say, the other leaders as to what I'm actually expecting in terms of conversation on the marketing front, product front, so that they are also prepared when we get into a conversation as to what we need to achieve in those conversations. So it's always about defining my set of tasks, understanding the other person's set of tasks that they have actually aligned for themselves, and trying to actually find the best optimization. It's never possible to do 100% optimization because there are priorities for others also. And um, and given that there's a lot of startup hustle that happens, things get pulled in different directions. So you try to achieve whatever little structure you can achieve in via the small hack of sorts, but that's how I go about it. Of course, ChatGPT is big on my list of things to help me with a lot of the tasks that I try to achieve on the sales side. I've automated a lot of my processes around email processing and sales reach outs. So that's really helpful now. So one person can end up doing multitasking across a lot of stuff on the content side, at least.
Wow, that's great. I'm going to have a separate conversation with you on just that part of stuff. So I expect a call after this podcast. But so would you say, would it be fair to say that you are an organized person? I mean, how organized? Because you're talking about task management, you're talking about email history.
I was not this kind of an individual, but at later stages, because I was always the person who was more hands-on and more like, let's get things done. Let's just go into the solution of it. Let's hustle our way through it. But as I grew up in my own journey, I realized that, you know what, while tasks seems to be a lot more misunderstood caliber, but it's very critical as you scale up in your career, because there are so many things that you start to be responsible about. While you might want to actually just go about it organically, you are bound to miss something. You start to miss something, it just adds up, adds up, and that can become a lot of pressure at the end of the week. So while I usually used to squint at folks who used to do these task writing, but I realize the power of it now. At this stage of my career, I do realize the power of it now, because the set of responsibilities are a lot more, and it just becomes much more difficult. So this is a very easy hack. So I stand corrected. Let's just put it this way.
And so on the flip side, if these are things that are allowing you to manage your day, be efficient, optimize it, what are some things that aren't going so well, or what are things that come in the way, challenges or obstacles?
I would say that challenges is part of the startup culture, so you take it up, and that's something that's okay with me. But what is difficult and what is by design also is the ambiguity, right? And the ambiguity is going to be there because you're actually in the 0 to 1 scale. It can get strenuous when you have a lot of counter views that happen, that there's this business, there's the client view, there's the product capability that we are sitting on, and then there is the amount of reach out that we can do today because we are short on manpower. So there's a lot of prioritization that you need to do. And you need to find buffers where you can actually, in my scenario, where you can actually provide buffers to certain teams as they look to actually scale up, and provide those buffers with teams that are actually much more set up. So if, let's say, the sales team is a lot more aggressive at this stage, then they actually pick up the weight of finding some buffer for the product team. Or if the product team is actually going very well on some deliverables, we actually try to, and this CSM or delivery side is actually lacking behind, we try to fill those gaps so that the eventual goal is, in this scenario, it's B2B scenario, that the client has to be actually the most satisfied entity in this use case, right? So as long as among us, these are just different headers that I see, sales, marketing. At the end of the day, we are individuals trying to actually make it a successful deployment for the client and actually create real impact. And whatever is needed to do that, we will do that as a joint team. And that's where we try to find buffers between each other to actually ensure that we can actually cover for each other and provide real impact.
Okay.
So prioritization becomes critical as an individual who's looking at a few of these rolling pieces. Really becomes a key asset in terms of how I go about it. And that's all, both a challenge as well as an opportunity in that sense.
Got it. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to go back to, so I've understood a good chunk of how you are running your day, not just in terms of the solutioning, but again, enablers and challenges that you're having to navigate during the course of this day, right? Let's translate that into tech touch points.
Sure.
Again, as enablers to move you along that journey of how do I help my team prioritize? How do we move ahead on a solution? How do we resolve bottlenecks or just organize tasks? So let's start from the beginning. You already said you start by checking your phone in the morning. So I know you're checking your phone. Are there any specific apps? Like what do you look, is it just WhatsApp or are there some things that you're regularly checking?
So there is WhatsApp. We used to be on WhatsApp when we were like 10-member team, but then we eventually moved to Slack. I really love that. I got first introduced to Slack during my Coinbase time. And because Coinbase was a full remote organization, we had these all new age apps which were actually enhancing productivity to a very, very good level. And Slack is one of the winners there for me. So Slack actually is really helpful because it allows to do contextual channel conversations, where there's a sales conversation, there's product conversation, there's demo conversation. It allows you to do channel bifurcation. It allows you to do huddles within specific team members. It allows you to do alerts in a particular time of day that you want to actually be reminded of something. It allows you to ship out messages to individuals in the office at a particular amount of time, so that you are actually not missing a beat as to when you want to remind them, not just necessarily ship out in the middle of the night. So you want to remind them at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, right? I think Slack really helps me out there in terms of just.
And that's the first thing you look at in the morning, like when you wake up in
Slack also. So WhatsApp and then Slack. So WhatsApp is for any immediate burning issues that might have come up in the middle of the night as I was sleeping. And then Slack is, of course, just to understand what is happening across all the functions and the channels. And then I get into my calendar, I guess, the Google Calendar. That's another app that I just open up just to understand how my day is looking.
All on your phone? Are you doing all this all on your phone?
All on my phone.
Do you use your laptop?
I use my laptop rarely. So if I have to
interesting.
I use my laptop rarely. Most of my stuff till the first portion of the morning is achieved on the phone, where I'm actually using Gmail, Google Calendar to actually ship out emails very quickly. I have a GPT version also on my phone. So I actually use that to actually do my content creation and just ship out whatever I need to do in the early morning. LinkedIn is big for me as well. I do go through LinkedIn in the early phase of the morning because that really helps me to understand where my reach outs are, how my response are. And because I'm coming from the business development side of things, I need to actually just be in touch with what's happening on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's become the new social media platform for me compared to the old days of Facebook. So there is no more Facebook on my phone now. So I think that tells you what phase of life I am right now. So yeah, those are the first few set of apps that I actually engage.
Okay. And then what happens during the day? So you said right up to even
then
in solutioning and all these, because these are face-to-face, I'm assuming you're not on your laptop.
Yes. So once I actually am in the deep of things, then of course I open the laptop up, Microsoft Excel or Google Excel actually in our scenario because we're using Google Sheets. That is one of the aspects. Then there's Apollo from a sales perspective. There's HubSpot. There is Lucia. Some of these apps that we have. We're also using some of the assistance of AI with regard to interview or recording AI features like read.ai and others. Those are some of the apps but most of my work happens on the Excel end of things, on Google Docs, the Google ecosystem, and then the presentation side on the PPT.
Got it. And then, okay, so you have laptop for some of the deep work that you need to do. And then end of the day, I'm assuming laptop is off and are you back to your phone and Slacks and okay. And what else do you do for entertainment? Do you go back home? Do you watch TV?
Netflix,
what are the devices?
A lot of YouTube, a lot of Netflix. I have actually removed my set-top box. I removed my set-top box for cable around 3-4 years back.
Okay.
So I don't have live television in that sense of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I consume all my live feeds on news and others on YouTube. I consume my entertainment on Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, the whole gamut
Hmm.
of things. I consume my music on YouTube Music.
Hmm.
I used to have Amazon Music and Spotify, but I kind of swung to YouTube Music long back. One of the early adopters of YouTube Music in India. So I love the way they personalize, the way they contextualize the music feeds. Um, in terms of entertainment, I have a small library of books that I have. So I read light reading on the fiction side. Um,
Okay.
I do engage on some bit of non-fiction and biographies, but yeah, fiction is my calling. So I
That's
love
great.
to actually, in the evenings when I have a little bit of extra time, especially on weekends, I love to cook as well. So yeah.
Lovely. It's so nice to do non-tech stuff. So
Absolutely.
you're
Cooking is
surrounded by tech all day long.
cooking is the biggest therapy for me because it's almost like a chemical engineering experiment, right? They're happening in the kitchen. So
Yeah,
more
it's true. Oh, that's great. I like Krish Anand because he brings that entire engineering mindset to cooking and like the science behind cooking. It totally clicks in my head.
Yes,
So I appreciate that. So okay, so interestingly, YouTube you mentioned it a few times now in this conversation, and you mentioned most recently YouTube Music and news is both happening. I mean, music and news is both happening on YouTube,
absolutely.
right? So that's a good segue into what is the tool. Where are we going with this? What do we want to talk about today?
We can absolutely talk about the one indisposable item in my phone. It's right
Yeah,
there, on top, which is YouTube and the whole ecosystem of YouTube for me. I think
yeah.
that's a good segue for us.
Yeah, that would be great. You've already teased it so many times. I'm now curious. So let's start from the beginning. YouTube Music, you mentioned you're one of the earliest adopters
Yeah.
of that. And I'm assuming just YouTube videos then happened when? Like, how recently have you
So
switched to?
yeah, it scaled up. That stickiness for YouTube scaled up during COVID for me.
Ah,
So I was actually
hmm.
consuming a lot of content at that point in time, given the kind of availability of time because of COVID that we had at
Yes.
home, without any personal interactions and social interactions. So that scaled up my adoption of YouTube a lot. And a variety of fields where we all went into, of course, the research of vaccine, the research of
Yes.
public opinion on these things. I think the journey always started there, where we tried to research what are the implications of these drugs and whatnot. And I think long form content, while it was not something that I consumed a lot,
Hmm.
the special feature of speeding up playback speed, which came up,
Yeah.
really helped me,
Yeah.
and the ADHD in me actually. So I have bits of that. So it really helped me to actually consume content much more faster. I think that's where the journey really picked up for me on YouTube. Whereas for YouTube Music, I think this was something that started at Flipkart. I was actually exploring partnerships when I was part of Flipkart. And YouTube had approached us for a partnership at that stage, and they were
Hmm.
actually launching YouTube Music in India for the first time. So that's how I got introduced to YouTube Music. And I really
When
loved,
was this?
I believe this was somewhere 2017, 2018.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That's when I think we interacted for the first time with YouTube
Hmm.
folks, and they were looking to introduce it. And then the partnership conversation did not materialize, but I became a fan for sure.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to club the two together. Feel free to pass them out, if we don't get into something specific. But there are so many options for consuming content, right?
Yeah.
Why YouTube?
The diversity of the content is immense on YouTube. It is not a vertical, which is only talking about news
Hmm.
or ed tech ecosystems or history or media or music. It is actually up to you how you define YouTube to be for yourself, right? You can actually build your own channels where you actually subscribe to a set of people that you love, you like. Of course, that leads to some bit of echo chambers as well, but you also, as an individual, look to diversify your set of knowledge, that you also want to look for counter viewpoints. And I think there is no bigger repository that I'm aware of which
Hmm.
provides a perspective of both video, voice, and text coming in a single medium. Uh, just like YouTube does, right? So, and while some may say that, you know what, Google which provides, let's say, the access to the world. It's a text-oriented world. I think video is a lot more captivating, a lot more engaging as a platform, which makes it much more sticky. But the issue that I probably, if I have to retrospectively think about, the availability of time was the issue. And I think the big portion of why YouTube consumption became big for me is because of two features. One is the playback speed aspect, which made me consume content much, much more faster. The watch later features, which would allow me to schedule some of the long form content for, let's say, weekend viewing. And then there is the aspect of premium that came in, which introduced something called as background play. So you actually reduce the size of the video of the long form content in a high speed 2x manner while engaging and doing other stuff that you want to do on your phone.
Oh wow. Okay. I didn't even know. I mean, I've subscribed to YouTube Premium, but I didn't even know about this. I just did it for the no ads part. I didn't realize that this is what you could do
So that's the
with that.
biggest gain for me, because while I'm actually chatting on WhatsApp or actually using Slack, you minimize YouTube video to a small size and it's playing in the background.
And are these videos? This is not music. These are videos that are playing.
Actual videos that are playing.
Wow. So you must be a pro at doing two things at once, because if you're responding to
As I said,
subscribe.
I've had some bit of ADHD from the longest of time, and I have a need to consume content,
Yeah.
which is also helpful for me because I'm looking to
Yeah.
be in touch with a variety of fields that are happening across the board. It helps me. It does
Yeah.
have negative possibilities, but it does help me in a
Yeah.
very situation, because I keep it guardrail to what I want to consume and which is going to push me towards being a better thinker.
Right. So, can you tell me a little bit about, so you already start talking about this. You're on Slack, but you can minimize that because you have the premium version and kind of keep your finger on that pulse of that
Yeah.
content. Where else does YouTube get sprinkled in your day? Let's go back to the day again, right? So from the time you wake up and all, can you tell me when and how does YouTube come into that?
So I think it's early in the morning if I'm actually in the traffic, and Bangalore is famous for traffic. So there's
Yeah.
more than an hour of time that you actually can end up spending in traffic. You plug in YouTube podcast, you're listening to Nikhil Kapat, you're listening to Andre Carpiti, listening to Lex Friedman on your phone rather than listening to radio. I'm not a big radio fan, so I
Mm.
switch to these podcasts in the morning while I'm driving or actually headed to office. And in the evening, once I'm back, again, the same schedule, or when I'm working out. Of course, there's music aspect to it, but at times I'm okay to actually listen to podcasts again during
Mm.
those sessions. And late night, which is not the most recommended habit. You should not consume content while before you sleep, but I end up doing it. It's an habit I want to correct. But from before sleeping, I do consume content on YouTube.
Okay. And again, to be clear, most of the content that you're consuming is more, it's not necessarily news, it's video form.
It's video.
Some of it is podcast, like you mentioned. So
A lot of
podcast, if
opinions,
you're
yes. A lot of
lots of,
opinions from experts across the board, whether that be an opinion on the new release of ChatGPT models of
mm,
one, or a viewpoint on how AI is actually looking to disrupt a particular industry, or how robotics is coming up, or the current conversation between Elon Musk's interviews. So a lot of opinions across the board.
mm.
I think I consume that as news as well as what's happening in the industry.
Interesting. So do you not use YouTube for entertainment then? Are you using it mostly
I
for
do. Of course, I
you do?
do.
Okay.
I'm a big media junkie with regard to trailers. If a trailer drops, I'm possibly the first one to actually watch a trailer.
Cool.
Uh, I love movies. I love my kind of movies, which are more action oriented, a lot more of the
Mm.
Marvel stuff, a lot more of the big celebration cinema. I'm a big fan of that. So, yes, I do consume a lot of trailers, by the way.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's one of the reasons why
Oh.
music works for me as compared to, let's
Mm.
say, Amazon or Spotify,
Mm.
because I'm a fan of trailers, and I specifically said trailers. I
Yeah.
love the trailer music, and the trailer music is not available in music albums usually. So I've always found that more in YouTube music. So if I've always been a big fan of soundtracks. I'm more of a music person than lyrics person. So if that's
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so I love music, and then there are these snippets of trailer music that just get
Mm.
really tuned in for me, and I want to
Yeah.
search them on YouTube Music, and they are available because they are part of the YouTube content feed anyway. So YouTube Music actually captures the content that is there on YouTube from a musical perspective. So that's one angle why YouTube Music becomes more critical to me than, let's say, the other portals.
Wow, that is so specific that I now know about you that you like trailer music.
So that's how, let's say, an individual like me gets put into YouTube Music when the world goes to
Yeah.
Spotify. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, talk about a value add. I mean, Spotify, if you're listening to this. Yeah. Okay, all right. You know what? Let's do a share screen. I would love to get some feel for what your YouTube interface looks like. Take me through where you go when you're on this page.
Of course, there's a lot of personalization that happens. So
Yeah.
I have my news feeds across live news feeds. As I said, that I don't
Ah,
consume existing cable news or live news. So First
right.
Post is one of the ones that I consume. Big fan of Palki there.
Mm,
I'm always a big fan of the print as well, in terms of Shekhar Gupta's pieces. Um, Keeps me balanced both between different perspectives. So that's
yeah.
how I go about it. Then there's a variety of podcasts
Mm,
with Nikhil Kamath actually right there on top.
yeah, yeah.
The podcast with Lex Friedman as well. And Think School is also big on my list of things. I think they
Okay.
break down a particular industry or a set of approach that individuals are taking into
Mm,
its first principle approach. And I love the way they actually go about it. So that's really
okay.
interesting for me. I think Joe Rogan's podcasts are exciting as well when
Mm,
it depends on the kind of guest that is coming up. So
yeah.
big fan of that as well. Um, yeah, that's a
So is
lot
this
of.
how, so when you log on, are you going to your channels? Are you saying, okay, I want to get to a podcast first, or I
Yeah.
want to listen to Elon Musk?
So
That's how you're.
today I'm in a mood for a podcast. Let's quickly go through my
Mm,
channels, what's latest with them. Just let's consume that. Of course, there's the homepage feed, which also then starts to recommend based on what I've consumed. But I like to do this
correct.
because it gives me a lot more control that I want to actually read about AI today or know about AI, what's going about it. I've already subscribed to a lot of channels, so they keep me updated on. I made all that choice in advance, right? Because I subscribe to them. So now the categorization just helps me to go quickly into those
I was
aspects.
going to say, this is one of the most organized ways I've seen people use YouTube. I'm serious. Like, I'm so impressed. Like, this really is such I mean, there's so much content here, and it's hyper focused because YouTube can also just become a lot,
Yeah, it
you
can
know, a
become,
lot.
yes. Then there's the trailer bit, as you rightly pointed out.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a big fan of trailers, a big fan of OSTs in the trailers, and of course, a big fan of action and thrillers. So there you can actually make a sense of
Very
what
cool.
stuff that I end up liking, right? So I'm a
Very, very cool.
gaming buff also. I don't see that channel. I guess it's actually gone down the this thing, but I've not seen game videos recently. Maybe that's the reason. But yeah, and
Mm.
a big history buff as well. I think I truly believe that
Mm.
some of the innovation on, given that programming is becoming more and more English and language oriented, a lot of the creativity is going to come from our history. I guess the folks who are more informed about a history and how to go about our aspect of human evolution are going to be
Yeah.
better equipped for it, I guess. But yeah,
You know what they say, what goes around comes around, right? Like
the
it's
answer is
there.
always in the
The
past.
answer's already there. Exactly. Right. Exactly.
So
Lovely.
that's
Okay.
about my feed here on
Yeah. And this
YouTube.
is where you said playback and watch later and collapsing of the video. That's
All on the mobile, on the desktop, of course, it's
yeah.
only ad-free
Yeah.
and categorization, but more on the mobile. These features really help to consume content much more faster and also do multitasking with the content.
Very cool. Okay.
Then there's YouTube Music, which again comes with its own set. So the premium program, the YouTube premium program gives you both the YouTube features of ad-free background play as well as the YouTube Music subscription together.
Mm,
YouTube premium umbrella. Or I don't know if they are providing these independently anymore, but they used to
mm,
provide
mm.
YouTube Music as an independent subscription and YouTube Red as the other one. I think they have deprecated YouTube Red now, and they've
Okay.
combined both in a single subscription. So I was saying,
Okay.
I think this is interesting. So all these are trailer musics, that is
Yeah.
right in front of you. You would not find these. If you are finding them on Spotify, then tell me. I'm happy to switch. But I don't. This is the kind of selection that you will see in most of the movie music players because they are actually album oriented. And this content library is exclusively, I guess, only with YouTube.
Wow. And I never really paid attention to trailer music before as a separate entity, but these are full songs, as in usually you think of trailers as like a 1 minute trailer, but this is legit like 2 to 3 minute, it's a
So
full song.
yeah. So there's a lot of ripping that happens from trailer music that
Mm.
individuals do it. And these are individual channels which rip that music off. So trailer size of 2 minute or 3 minute, the whole music portion
Ah,
is captured as a music portion. And then the video capability, this is what
yeah.
YouTube Music provides. So you can actually go back to the video of that in the
Because they're
same.
both connected. That's so cool. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Value, another value add, right? They in the same universe, the video and the song.
Absolutely.
Correct, correct.
And the
That's
biggest bit,
yeah.
which is going to be slightly controversial because I'm not sure how they do it, but for some reason, I think they are more context aware. At least I've felt that in terms of what I'm doing. I don't know how they power that up, but if I'm actually traveling to the airport, they know what kind of music I will love, which is going to be a lot more road music. And when I'm doing a certain activity on a holiday, it just customizes much better. I've felt it, I've sensed it, and that's the reason I'm a lot more
And is
strict.
that from the home feed? Is that what's happening? Like, let's say you're on the road and you open up YouTube because you want to listen to something, and automatically the recommendations are more road music, let's say.
The next
Road.
music that I actually press while I'm actually traveling, or I have a
Yeah.
booking that is scheduled on my calendar. I don't know how they
Yeah.
do it. So I'm just going to not call it out that obviously, but
You
yes,
know, they
it is.
everyone's listening. We know that.
So it is more
We-
contextual. I know it's working in my favor at this point in time, but yeah, it is very
You're
contextual.
being very kind by using word like it's very contextual.
I
Yes.
also come from the ad
So
tech ecosystem. So as an individual who's built ad techs, I need to be actually defending that as well.
yeah, fair enough. And you know what? We appreciate it. I mean, look at it. We're having conversation about the fact that they totally get my context.
Absolutely.
So
So it's
there's that.
actually
Okay.
working positively in my favor.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
It really solves that I don't need to actually just find what I want. It just knows what I want. So that's good.
Right. Right. That's great. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Before YouTube, what were you using?
Interacting with people.
No, like so there was no. It's not like instead of this music, instead of YouTube music,
Uh,
let's say.
yeah, I think
Were you?
cable was a big part of it, where a lot of the news feed, a lot of the channels that were on the live feed with
Hmm.
existing satellite TV was there,
Hmm.
which used to take a lot of that time. So once I actually got rid of that, I had time for media consumption. Because if you're saying that before YouTube, it was not that I was using Netflix, that came after YouTube for me in my life, of course. YouTube was primary. Facebook was a big portion in the early stages where the
Hmm. Hmm.
videos that used to play on Facebook, content that was shared on Facebook. Of course, then after YouTube and then Instagram happened also. But Instagram videos are short, impulse-based reels, which is not educational as such for me because those are bits and
Hmm.
pieces. So
Yeah.
not a big fan of video content on Instagram. That's more for meme culture and sharing of uh,
Hmm.
fun content, I guess. But on the YouTube side, I really use it for consumption of content that enhances my perspective.
Right. And it makes sense why it would beat cable news, for example, or even Facebook, because this ability, like you've done right now, is to organize it by channels and by, where you can jump in and out, a recommendation engine, like the whole works makes sense. So, marketer and ad tech background, if you had to talk about the value add of
Yep.
YouTube from that lens, not just personally Abhimanyu likes it, but what is the value that this platform has for someone in the marketing space? How would you, if you were to summarize it, YouTube is great for marketers who want to dash.
Yeah.
How would you complete that sentence?
I've been thinking about it myself because there was always a debate about that long form content is not going to work from a marketing perspective. It's always
Hmm.
going to be short form content, the 1 second or 90 seconds. So 90-second videos were crunched to 60 seconds, 60-second videos were crunched to 30 seconds. And now we're living in the world of 5 10
Hmm.
second
Hmm.
GIFs of sorts. But I believe there is a strong motivation to build a very, very big brand or a very, very strong brand with long form content now. And those brands are being built by podcast celebrities, and they are going to transfer um, the brand power of their individual aspect on the podcast to anything that they end up selling or commodity from that brand power. I think one of the best examples that I see is Nikhil, where he's actually starting to create long form content, crazy long form content of 3 hours, 4 hours. And that is building Nikhil Kamath as a brand as well. And he was always a brand initially also, but it's really built him in an ecosystem where he was not known that much, right? Yeah, and it's great storytelling, but that requires you to have very good content also.
Right.
Long form content for the sake of long form content will not work. It really has to
Yeah.
put a narrative of knowledge expansion for the people who are consuming it. So your
Yes.
blogs will not probably do it, right?
Hmm.
It will have to be content that is well thought out. It
Hmm.
is where he introduces a lot of folks do that, where they introduce different folks from industry having those long form conversations. So the people who don't have access to those individuals are
Yeah.
also getting a perspective. What we are doing today.
Yeah.
So I might not have a lot of touch point with a lot of college grads right now, but when they actually want to look at what makes a person's life tick in a startup ecosystem, they would actually learn from here. So that's
Right.
the structure that might work in long form content, and
Yeah.
which reinvent long form content from a marketing and brand perspective.
Hmm. Okay. So I want you to, can you complete the sentence for me that for marketers, I mean, YouTube is great for marketers who want
Or
to,
building a brand on top of long form content.
lovely. Okay. Okay. Understood. Okay. The only thing left, Abhimanyu, is a rapid fire round.
Sure.
Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Let us go. Okay. Name one thing on your bucket list.
Mount Everest Base Camp.
Wow. Okay.
Got missed last
uh,
year, so it's still on my bucket list. Yes.
okay. This question is redundant, but answer it anyway. Which social media platform are you most active on?
YouTube.
What comes to mind when I say happiness?
Life.
Oh, okay. Do you own a vehicle?
Yes, I do.
What
It's
kind?
it's a Mahindra India made XUV 700.
Okay, lovely. Well, that was it. Super painless.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Abhimanyu. This
Thank you
was
so much, Tapsi.
so insightful. I have a new lens and appreciation for people who are obsessed with YouTube, including my brother. He's like you. He's the guy who at night will
Yes,
just have YouTube running and he's watching like bridges being built and he's watching history and like
all over
it's
the
actually
place.
not, it seems all over the place, but clearly there's a
Once you
method to
put
the
structure,
madness.
absolutely. Once you put a little
Yes.
structure to that world
Yes.
of knowledge, I think there's a lot
Yeah.
to be unlocked.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful weekend.
You too. You too. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye. Bye.